Welcome everybody to episode 1 of the 24-Hour Hustle Show. I'm your host, Anthony Freeze, and today we're going to talk about custom clothing, WWE, and an ever-expanding business with special guest, David Allen. All right, y'all, so welcome to the show. Today we have accomplished guest today, David Allen. I'm your host once again, and my background here is content creator and also an entrepreneur as well. And for those of you that have been living over a rock and don't know who David Allen is, I'm going to give him the opportunity to say his background, his name, and what else he has going on. So what's up, man?
What's going on? I appreciate you having me, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on the show. Absolutely, man.
Of course. Yeah, so David Allen from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, staying here to support the great city that we have here. Background is medical sales. I got tired of that and wanted to switch over and start my own fashion line. And it's been a blessing in disguise, and it's taken off like crazy. So
absolutely,
a lot of cool stuff happening.
So that's really interesting. So you went from medical sales to being an entrepreneur. So how did that happen?
You know what, I've always kind of had a knack for just trying to figure things out and kind of make a little extra hustle on the side. And, you know, first grade, I used to hustle candy in school.
Okay.
Get to high school, start hustling, other things too. And I've always wanted to get into sales, always wanted to have that background. And I knew that medical sales was a lucrative opportunity, and it was something that I had some family members that were doing, and I picked their brain a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it just one thing led to another, and it fortunately became my first job out of school.
Okay.
So for about 8-9 years, I was in medical sales. All while doing that, I had my hands in something where I was trying to create something on the side, different businesses and whatnot. So
absolutely,
I've never just worked a 9 to 5. I've always had something else to kind of keep me occupied.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so tell us a little bit about like your upbringing, like from if you were to take me back to the beginning, like when you were born, and then your upbringing a little bit, what area you raised in, the kind of the association you had, how that maybe influenced you, and then to the point where like what even made you to want to start selling candy and have little side hustles and things like that.
Yeah, I think that all stems back from my parents and what they kind of instilled in me in a young age. And even in first grade, second grade, up to 5th grade, 6th grade, and as I started hanging out with people, I was always very disciplined because my dad was a disciplinarian, and there was no sleeping in on the weekends.
What did he do?
It was just there was yard work. There was always something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sundays we went to church. Saturdays I was up at 7 o'clock in the morning to do stuff around the house. Mm-hmm. And I hated it at the time. Obviously as a little kid you want to sleep and you want to do other things and whatnot, but I look back and the values that my mother and father instilled in me, I can't even thank them enough for what they've done at such a young age to allow me to build a foundation to have that work ethic that I do. And my dad always taught me that there's always opportunity out there, and it's just basically who goes out and gets it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's really great about this country, and everybody does have the same opportunities to get something if you have the willingness to work. And we each have our own obstacles, but that doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, it's just about how bad do you want something.
Right.
So, you grow up, get to high school. I wasn't allowed out on school nights. Once 10 o'clock hit, I had to be home. The only events during the week I was allowed to go to were high school basketball games, football games, soccer games, whatever it was. And then as soon as that was over, I had to be home. Summertime we had a little bit more leeway with everything, but for the most part it was just kind of having to be home and tidy up with everything. If I had to stay at a friend's house, it didn't matter if I stayed up all night. When I got to my parents' house on Saturday morning, I had to be up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and there were no nap times. There were no like, hey, let me doze off for an hour. It wasn't like that.
So they instilled a lot of good characteristics in you that you still probably use today.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, and I look back and again, I hated it at the time.
Right.
The value that it added to my life and my future has been incredible.
So what did your parents do as far as like work? What did your mom and dad do?
My mom was, she worked at the local municipality, but she was also, raising 3 kids all within 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years of each other.
Okay.
So her hands were full, and my dad, He manages construction on nuclear power plants across the eastern part of the country.
Okay.
He had a couple different jobs, when I was a really young guy, and he always traveled and was running around this and that. But he always made time for us, and you saw the commitment that he had to make our family comfortable and to be okay. And we struggled growing up a little bit, but I look at what my dad has accomplished in his life, and where he is at now. It's incredible to see the resilience that he's had and things that he's gone through. And you don't understand or appreciate that as a kid, and then you get a little bit older, and then you look back, and it's just like, man, you take things for granted as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I can say the same. Family is highly important to me. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I do what I do in life. It's one of my passions, for sure. I mean, I definitely want to be able to feel like I left a legacy behind for them, because at the end of the day, I want something to be left behind that says I was here, I left an impact, and it was in a positive way for other people.
Sure.
So I can definitely sense that with you as well, with family being a high priority.
Absolutely.
So what inspired you to get into entrepreneurship and things like that? What would you say your why is for getting into entrepreneurship and business?
Yeah, you know what, I was always very fortunate with being in medical sales. I made a lot of money when I was hustling and doing the 9-to-5 type job. And, it essentially wasn't a 9-to-5 because it's sales. So you're working basically around the clock, answering emails, doing calls, things of that nature. Because if you miss a call, you miss a sale, then you lose out on some money. So, but, the biggest thing that I have was I used to get very frustrated with my position at these organizations. I was a good sales rep for the company. The physicians that I worked with absolutely loved working with me, but I would never get another opportunity to become a manager or whatever, to climb the corporate ladder. And it started really wearing on me because, one year I'd sell product and I'd be 110% to plan. Well, then the next year I'd be 95% to plan or 90% to plan or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're disposable. Yeah. And I just kind of got tired of that. And the amount of work that I put in and how hard it was, it just got very frustrating. I've realized throughout life that life is very, very short. When I was 16, my best friend was killed in a car accident.
Oh, man.
It was by far one of the hardest things that I've ever been through. In high school, I played football and I broke my back and had to wear a corset for 6 months. And
wow.
I thought I was going to have some serious long-term issues with being able to walk. In college, I was in a head-on motorcycle accident.
Wow.
And,
so how did you overcome those different things?
You know what? I just didn't want to stop. I wanted to become better. Because I quickly realized that I was living on borrowed time, essentially. Like there's so many issues or situations that were not as severe as that people don't get through.
Right.
And I think the biggest impact was when my friend passed away, because I look at how much she molded me into being a young man, and to lose somebody like that absolutely destroyed me. And I promised myself at that point I was going to pave the way and I was going to do something to change the world, because I didn't know how long I had, right?
Right, absolutely.
So it's kind of scary because you start thinking, like, if that could happen to somebody at 16, it could happen to anybody.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest impact on me. And why I work so hard is because, I want to take care of people. I just genuinely care about people, strangers, friends, family, everybody. But I never want to be in a position where my kids look at me and they ask me to go somewhere or do something, and I have to say we can't afford it.
Right.
I would love to be able to have a house somewhere where everybody in my family can go every single holiday or every single year and fly there and travel there. And it's not about the material things. It's about the time and quality that you can have with somebody that you care about.
Absolutely.
And, the last couple of years, I've given up bachelor parties, drinking on weekends, and now I don't even really drink at all anymore.
Right.
And because it doesn't bring value to my life, right?
Right.
And the last 2.5 to 3 years have been the hardest things I've ever been through in my entire life. But I think I've grown so much more as a man, a brother, a son, all that stuff, and even a friend. And it's just important to me just to always be better and see how we can take this and how far we can basically build a brand, because we only have a short amount of time on earth.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what it comes down to.
The reason why I asked, like, what did you do or how did you overcome those different things? Because a lot of people may go through a certain situation like that and call it quits.
Right. Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, one of the reasons why the show is called, the 24-Hour Hustle Show is because each day we all got 24 hours in a day. And we are on borrowed time. But and a lot of people, and I want to kind of make this also clear as far as the show goes, you don't have to literally hustle 24 hours in a day, but you do have to hustle within that 24 hours in a day.
Absolutely.
And we all have a chance to be able to make an impact within that time that we have. I also like a saying that Gary Vee always says, and you follow Gary Vee a lot too, is he talks about macro patience, macro speed. Yep. So, in the short amount of time that you do have, work as hard as you possibly can, but also in the long term, have an idea of the bigger picture. Like you said, you want to be able to go on trips with your family and not have a situation where if they want to go somewhere, you got to tell them no.
Right.
And you don't want to be able to, you don't want to have that conversation with them. I mean, that makes you feel bad as the parent as well, because you got to be like, nah, we can't really do that right now. So we definitely, with the time that we have, should be taking advantage of as much time as possible. Sure. So I definitely feel, where you're coming from on all that. So working in medical sales and having that passion for entrepreneurship, what made you want to take the leap? Like, what was the one thing that said, I can't take this no more?
Yeah. So, in medical sales, I was fortunate. I was making between $200,000 and $300,000 a year selling medical equipment.
Okay.
And the last year and a half of me being employed by somebody, I would always listen to podcasts when I was driving. I'd drive 3 hours to Harrisburg, and then all I would do is shut the music off, turn the podcast, learn from people.
What kind of podcasts?
Nathan Chan was the first gentleman that I started listening to.
Okay.
And Australian gentleman his podcast is absolutely incredible, and he was probably the first one that I really got into hearing things and really started dissecting it.
So he was like the first.
He was the first, and I don't even know how I stumbled across him. But from him, it went to Andy Frisella, who's another very, very powerful entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and everything. And then How It Was Built is another one that I listened to. So I just started sampling and trying to find different things, and those were kind of the windshield time that I have, and I didn't want to waste my time listening to music. But I remember this one morning, and I drove to Harrisburg. I had a 9:15 meeting with a surgeon, and we've been planning this meeting for a couple weeks. So I drive 3 hours to get out there. I pull into the office, and I go to the front desk, and I knew the lady that was working there, and I said, I'm here to see Dr. So-and-so. And she just basically said, hey, look, some things have changed. He's not able to meet you right now.
And you drove 3 hours
Yeah.
And they didn't even send a text, a call?
Nothing. And that was to me, okay, my time's valuable.
Right. 3 hour drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I would have went into the office, closed the deal, I would have made $4,000 or $5,000 on one sale, right?
Right.
So at that point, she just said, hey, he's not able to meet with you. And the old me, okay, that's cool, but I'm going to meet with him, right?
Right.
I'm going to get past the gatekeeper to figure that out. And I just remember I just gave her my business card, and I said, hey, thanks, appreciate it, and got my car and drove 3 hours home. Because I was more excited to listen to a podcast than make money in that specific scenario, because I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. And that was the wake-up call that I just couldn't do it anymore. All I used to care about was, and all I used to think success was how much money can you make.
Right.
And I remember, years ago I said to somebody, I said, by 25 I want to make six figures. Well, by 24 I made six figures. I told somebody by 35 I wanted to be making $250,000 a year. By 27 I was making that. And then I just looked at myself and I was like, you're not even happy and you're making that kind of money. Who cares? It's not about that.
Success is what you make it.
Yep, absolutely. And I've learned now I work 100 to 110 hours per week, and wouldn't change it for the world. I don't feel like I have a job. I am happier than I've ever been in my entire life. And the money's going to follow. So just build the happiness, build the business, and go from there.
I'm definitely a firm believer of, you can be a lot more happier doing what you love, making less, than doing something you absolutely hate, making more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why, you know, I love being an entrepreneur. I'd much rather be doing something that I love and make a little bit less, but still being able to be stable than be making $1 million and, you know, hate my situation. So I definitely feel you on that. So what inspired you to start the custom clothing line? So you didn't want to do the medical sales, and then you got into custom clothing. So what was that? What was it about custom clothing that made you want to jump into that?
So my when I was 23, my first side hustle, I just got out of college, got into medical sales, and I started a necktie company with 3 business partners. And I used to go golfing a lot, and I would go to, you know, Myrtle Beach, Florida, wherever it may be. And I would notice that everybody that I went golfing with would go to the pro shop and they would spend $150 or $100 on a Nike polo with a golf course logo on it. And I realized, all right, cool. A lot of the guys that golf have money and they're successful business people. Probably they wear neckties at some point, especially there's a lot of successful guys from New York City that travel all over for golf. So I said, why is no pro shop that I've ever been in, why do they not have neckties with the golf course logo? So
I see.
I kind of saw this little niche that I was like, all right, let's at least figure this out. So we started designing and manufacturing neckties to sell to country clubs, golf courses, and then we branched off to businesses. You know, we had Giant Eagle as a customer of ours.
Really?
We did stuff for the Little League.
What,
World
did you have
Series.
like a Giant Eagle logo?
Yeah, we had them like kind of scattered throughout. And like we tried to make it not like a gimmicky way, but more of a fashion style way. So it was a unique spin on being able to brand for those organizations.
Right.
We did stuff for the Little League World Series, which was a pretty cool opportunity for us. And it became one of those situations where I had 3 business partners, and we were all 25% owner. And Monday would roll around, and we had a meeting scheduled, and then all of a sudden, Monday at 3 o'clock, you'd get a text message. You know, hey, can we switch this to Tuesday? Something came up. Or can we? Okay, cool. So Tuesday comes around. Hey, can we switch this? Let's cancel this week.
So the accountability wasn't there yet.
Yeah, and you know, to me, in my head, I was there trying to build this mega $1 million business, right? And I knew that started to really wear on me because I felt like nobody really cared or nobody really wanted to take it where I wanted to go, right? And it became more of a hobby for the people that I was involved with, and I think that really, really bothered me.
Right.
So we did that for almost 4 years, and then at the very end of that 4-year term, probably about 2 months before we actually dissolved the business, I saw a necktie that if you tied it a certain way, the knot would be a different color.
Right.
So for me, that was cool, but like it was too much, too gimmicky. It was something that necktie could only be worn every 6 weeks or 8 weeks without somebody saying, hey, like you already wore that same necktie, right?
Right.
So at that time, I was 25, 26 roughly. And I didn't have a significant amount of money. I was just getting into the high-end medical sales, so I was just starting to buy nicer clothing. But I typically wore the same 5 or 6 neckties every week, every other week.
We all do,
right?
Oh yeah,
everybody.
I work in a place where I have to dress up a lot, and I wear, like you said, the same size all the time. Yeah, and you try to find the different varieties, but if you only get 5, you're very limited.
Yeah.
So
and so my thought was, all right, here's this cool concept, to me at least, of a necktie with a different color knot, right? Too much for me. Then I had, hey, here's my favorite 5 neckties that I wear all the time that I absolutely love. I had 50 neckties from, you know, my dad handed them down and all that stuff, but they weren't what I liked wearing. So I just said, hey, how cool would it be to take these 5 neckties and turn those into 100 neckties?
Right.
So I just I contacted a seamstress and I said, hey, I have this idea. That was March of 2014.
Okay.
So March, April, May pass. You get into the summertime, and finally she hits me back and says, hey, look, I don't have time to do it. I'm like, all right, here we go. This is how hard it's
like, here we go again.
So fortunately, I contacted another lady, a friend's mom, who's a seamstress, and I just said, hey, you know, I have this idea. What do you think? And she said, yeah, let's give it a try. And 2 weeks later, she hits me up and says, hey, you know, I have something. I don't know if it's what you want. Let's give it a try. So went over and I picked it up, and It literally was a piece of elastic with fabric sewn on there, enough in the triangle form, with a loop holder in the back that you could pop a tie through. And I was like, this is it. Yeah, you know, it looked like a piece of underwear or whatnot. And, you know, I got a lot of flack in the beginning from my buddies, of course.
Right.
But I realized that was the start.
Right. So was this person located in Pittsburgh also?
Yes, yeah,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, her and I started working together for a couple months, and you know, she had a day job as well, so I understood that it was a different situation, and I could only do so much. And so that was October of 2014. Whenever she gave me the prototype, started working together, launched the company January 1st of 2015. And January 1st of 2015, we went live, and we did a decent amount in the beginning. Well, then it became one of those situations where, you know, she had a day job, so she couldn't help me out as much, right?
She was limited in time.
Correct. And you know, I remember getting an order of 10 proper knots, right? And I called her and said, hey, you know, can you get these to me? And it took about 3 weeks to get them back. And at that point,
that's way too much time, especially when you're dealing with customers at that point.
Right. So at that point, I just said, it's time to figure it out on my own. So I went to Joanne Fabrics, bought a sewing machine, and she kind of gave me the fundamentals of how to turn everything on. And, then I relied on YouTube from January through December of 2015, and I handmade every single one of the proper knots. So
wow. So you went the Damon John route.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It was brutal, man. You know, because at that point I was heavily in my medical sales career, where it was just purely all day long you're working, evenings you're still working, and then when you had that time to piece it together, it became one of those things where I had to sew.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times I was sewing until 3, 4, 5 in the morning, sometimes pulling an all-nighter and just getting back after it, getting on the road the next day for the medical job. So I did that throughout 2015, throughout 2016, and then once like July of 2016 hit, I realized that I had to get a higher margin product to get out of my day job.
Right.
And so then I just said, why don't I try to make suits? It just made sense. The natural evolution happened. And right before I started making custom suits, I met a gentleman named Justin LeBar, who's from Pittsburgh. And
right. Yeah, I know Justin.
Yeah, so he has a nice wrestling show on, great following across the country. And I had a buddy that said you should reach out to Justin, give him a couple proper knots. He has a decent following. He may be able to help you out.
So you gave him like a couple free items.
Yeah. So that was actually March of 2015 when I was hand making them, and Justin and I just started building a relationship together, and he was incredible to work with, and he's a talented entrepreneur as well. And once October of that year hit, I was only making suits for a month, 2 months, and WWE came to Pittsburgh, and he said, hey, look, I know one of the wrestlers, Titus O'Neil. I'll introduce you guys, and you know, hopefully he'll purchase off you, and you never know where that leads.
So real quick, so do you know how Justin knows WWE, or how he got involved with that, so that you were able to connect with Titus O'Neil?
Yeah,
so by the way, for those who don't know me that well, this is probably my favorite part of the show right now, because I love wrestling, so this is what I'm here for. So let's get into that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so Justin has a show called Chair Shot Reality.
Okay.
And it's based around, it's like the ESPN of wrestling, without being directly associated with the WWE.
Right.
And, you know, he's done very, very well for himself over the last few years, and has built up a great list of friends and clients and whatnot through his podcast, or video cast, I should say. And he just said, hey, look, I know Titus O'Neil. He's a great guy. You should sit down with him and see if you can do anything. And Titus is one of the more stylish guys in the WWE, always dressed well head to toe. So I went to the Marriott next to PPG Arena, and we ended up meeting, and he purchased 10 suits off me the first night. And
wow. That's a big order, too.
Sure, yeah. You know, the crazy thing about that is, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like,
you're just kind of winging it,
dude. That was my third client overall, and I just had to pretend like, man, I had all this stuff down.
Yeah, like I got 100 clients. I mean, you don't need to know them all, but
right? Literally, it was just me in my house trying to figure this out. So, you know, I ended up going and measuring Titus, and you know, he bought 10 suits off me, and
that is fucking awesome.
It was incredible, man. Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah,
but until they came back all wrong.
Really?
Yeah. So
what the sizes weren't right, or what happened?
You know
what was the issue?
So that was one of those things where I think I did right on my end, and then I look back at as we've grown the company, and at that point I thought any issue that came back was my fault, right? Because I was the one that measured, I was the one that submitted.
Right.
I didn't put two and two together that there was an opportunity for a factory to make mistakes, right?
Right.
So at that point I just said, hey, cool, all right, I'll take care of it. So I reordered 10 more suits, and those 10 suits came in wrong again.
So it came in wrong twice.
Twice, yeah. So
wow.
So now we're
that
out.
That could have potentially like been the end of it.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah, that was that was a tough pill for me to swallow, because financially that just drained the life out of me, and I was bootstrapping the entire journey, and have this far. So it was very, very defeating, because I didn't know why it wasn't working out, and I just kept thinking I wasn't good enough to do what I was doing. And so I did that again. We made a couple more tweaks on the garments, and I did another order, and they didn't come in right.
So 3 times.
Yeah, so you're talking 30 suits right out of the gate.
Right.
And I couldn't charge him.
Right.
Because it was my company's error or my fault.
Right.
So that was very, very tough. And then all of a sudden, I realized, why am I ordering 10 suits? Why wouldn't I order 1 suit, make sure it fits, and then go from there? So
the excitement was probably
well, and also I didn't have a mentor. I don't have that right now going through the journey. There's a couple guys recently that I've networked with that we kind of spit ideas to each other and everything else. But at that phase, it was just me and whatever mentor I could find on a podcast.
Right.
And so at some point, I just figured out, hey, let's tone that back a little bit. And so Titus and I built a relationship from October of 2015 through January 2016. And one day he just said, hey, man, book a flight, spend the week with me, and we'll go travel with WWE.
Really?
And I remember it was crazy. I went to Royal Rumble, which was in, it was in.
All right, this is the part where, this is the part where I start getting jealous.
Yeah, so I went to the Royal Rumble, which was in Orlando.
Okay.
And that was last year. And then the next night we did that till midnight, and backstage was Rick Ross, Wale, all these amazing artists,
right?
And to me it was just like, wow, this is cool. Like, let's work harder, let's figure this out, because this could potentially be my life, right?
Oh yeah.
And so that we left there at midnight, drove 4.5 hours to Miami. Get there 4 or 5 in the morning, and then up the next day, have to be at the arena at 2 o'clock for Monday Night Raw. So we get to Miami, and this was pretty cool because The Rock was there, Wiz was there, Wale was there again, Rick Ross was there again. So it was cool to see these guys around in these big cities.
Right.
And then we left there at midnight, and then we drove till 4 in the morning to go to Tampa Bay for SmackDown on Tuesday. And you
rode down with Titus?
Yeah, we were driving together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and in a 3-day time frame, I added probably about 12 new clients and sold about 52 suits. And at that point, man, I knew that I had something there that was very, very valuable. And from that, man, it's spiraled into an out of control world that. I'm doing a suit for the Emmys this weekend. And,
that's awesome. That's big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, I've done suits for the ESPYs, Emmys. I did something for the...
Now back up real quick. How did you get the Emmy one?
Yep. So this was back in... I just went to WrestleMania in March of 20... I'm going to have to bring you on board, man.
Hell yeah. I'll be more than happy to do that.
So I was at WrestleMania, and that was I think that was in Orlando this year. It was in Orlando this past year, and I was sitting in the friends and family suite, and a gentleman sat next to me, and we started talking. He was friends with one of the WWE divas, and we spent 4 or 5 hours together just BSing and hanging out, and he subtly told me he worked in LA and did some work out there. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. And he downplayed the heck out of who he is.
Right.
And, we stayed in touch over the next, the summer months and everything. And I had an opportunity to head out to LA a couple weeks back, and ended up sitting down with him and designing a suit for the red carpet. So he's very well connected, very well known name in Hollywood, and it's been pretty surreal to see that. And now he introduces me to a gentleman that does video work for Kevin Hart. You know,
Really?
So now it's like, okay, cool. Maybe, you know, these
Yeah.
networks and
Oh yeah.
and you know how it is, man. As an entrepreneur, you want to help people.
Oh yeah.
And like the gentleman that's doing the video for Kevin Hart, he was an attorney and just got tired of that.
Right.
Worked in New York City and just said, I can't do it anymore. Started his own production company and moved to Los Angeles. And, you know, without knowing him, I know what he's been through. Same thing with you, and same
Right.
thing with other guys that are true or guys and gals
Right.
that are true entrepreneurs. And it's a great network. And
Oh,
it's a solid.
That's definitely the key. I mean, association is definitely key.
Right.
And being able to network with different people, build solid, genuine relationships with people is definitely important.
Right.
And I can hear definitely even through your story, like how you were able to connect with this person and build relationships with them and then move a little bit further. So that's definitely the way to do it. Networking is definitely important.
Yeah, and you know the key that I try to tell every entrepreneur that I work with, and I was just in Las Vegas on Sunday with Mojo Rawley, and he's become a great friend of mine, and we were talking, man, and I was just, you know, thanking him for everything that he's done, and you know, the one thing that him and I talked about was the fact that you take away him being a WWE wrestler and you take away the service of the clothing that I provide, and I want to hang out with him, right?
I mean, he's the hype man, so.
Right. but to the point is, I don't care that he's a WWE wrestler. He doesn't care that I sell clothing.
Right.
And
it's that human connection.
Correct.
You know,
And
at the end of the day, you're both, you know, human beings, and being able to connect on something outside of what people perceive us to be is, you know, what it's all about.
And I think that's where, when you are an entrepreneur, that's when you know you're doing what's right, because you now start doing business with people that you care about, people that you love, and people that you want to befriend. And without question, any of those guys I would do anything for, and I think most of them would probably say the same thing for me. So
that's awesome. That's definitely a good thing to have, and just being able to build up those different relationships with those, you know, those people has definitely been key. Who would you say has been like the biggest WWE superstar you've worked with so far?
You know what? I think they're all unique in their own platform. I think they're all really, really great guys. I probably style about 40 to 45 of the WWE wrestlers.
That's a lot.
It's been crazy. I think from a purchasing standpoint, John Cena has bought the most from me.
Really?
Yeah, he's purchased probably over close to 100 suits off me in the last couple months. And then Ric Flair is also a very, very big name in the WWE.
Oh, yeah. Legend, for those of you who don't know.
Arguably probably one of the best ever.
Oh, yeah. Greatest of all time.
Right?
2-time Hall of Famer.
But, you know, even him, like, I don't look at these guys like they're WWE wrestlers. I just look at them like they're friends, because they are. And
absolutely.
You know, I can't pinpoint one over the other and say I like working with someone more than the other. I just... they're all good dudes that I just like being around, and I usually travel with them once a month, depending on how busy I am. And you know, most recently, WWE called me to do a Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel Sanders.
Oh yeah, now that was interesting. I got a chance to see that. That was pretty cool. What was that all about?
Yeah, so that was a cluster. So. Initially, initially it was supposed to be one of the wrestlers, and he ended up getting very ill. And I remember, man, so this was for SummerSlam, which was Sunday a couple weeks back, right? So I was flying on the Tuesday before SummerSlam to Tampa Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I was going to fly to New York City or Brooklyn for SummerSlam.
Right.
So I remember I'm getting to the airport, and all of a sudden I get a call from WWE. And they're sitting in a conference room, and there's about 5 people in the on the call, and they say, "Hey, look, we need to make a change. You need to be in Brooklyn on Sunday," which I had planned on already, and we need you to cut the sleeves off the jacket and tailor the suit, because Shawn Michaels is going to be the new Colonel.
Yeah.
So they said, "Do you have your machine with you?" So
right out
of the
gate. Did you have it on you?
Well, right out of the gate, I knew that they didn't know what the process was or anything, because you don't just carry anything with you like that.
Right.
And it was one of those situations that I just said, yeah. And I said,
make it work.
I'll make it work. So,
right. How much time did you have to make that happen?
That was Tuesday at 1 p.m. Landed at 3:30, 4 o'clock p.m. Tuesday, and I had to have a suit in hand by Saturday to them. which is not really possible.
Right.
Our typical lead time on a suit is about 17 to 20 days.
Right.
So I knew that we really didn't have much time to figure this out. So fortunately, I also work with a factory that's in the United States, and I contacted them immediately and said, look, we need to do something here. We need to create here's the look we want. We need to create a vest with these white pants and here's the inspiration, pouch pockets, wide lapel, peak lapel. So we were able to handle that, knock that out. I talked to WWE. I said, hey, this is overnighting on Friday, going to arrive to you on Saturday. Boom, perfect, right? So I leave Friday. I'm flying from Tampa to Brooklyn. My flight's canceled.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, this is the joy of being an entrepreneur, right?
There's always those ups and downs.
Yeah, man. So flight was canceled. So I'm like, all right, let me see when I can get to New York. So the next flight for Southwest wasn't until Tuesday. So I was like, that's not going to happen, right?
Right.
So I ended up booking another flight and, flight was supposed to be at 11 o'clock, get to New York by about 2 o'clock. The only other option there was finding a 4 o'clock flight. So we find a 4 o'clock flight. All these thunderstorms are blowing through Tampa Bay, and so there's obviously delays, right?
Right.
So and then there was also a storm in New York. So New York at that point, I think they had mass cancellations. It was a nasty, nasty thunderstorm going through there for a long period of time. So I get on my flight, 4 o'clock. We take off. We leave. And, I doze off, I'm listening to my podcast, all that stuff, and I wake up, and it's 3.5 hours later, and the flight's supposed to be 2.5 hours. I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
So we were not able to land in New York. So then the pilot gets on and says, hey, we can't land due to congestion, all that other stuff, so we start circling. Well, then all of a sudden they say, hey, we're out of fuel. So then we had to go down to Virginia.
Okay.
So we start circling Virginia. We land in Virginia. By this time, it's 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
We're landing on the tarmac, and they say, hey, we don't know if we're gonna be able to take off tonight. So I'm just sitting there, just getting bombarded the last 4 or 5 days. Like, what the heck is going on? My luck is this is crap. Man.
Right.
So we ended up making it to New York. I get there about 2:30 in the morning. So the next day, Saturday, is when the garment's going to arrive. Everything goes accordingly. I get a text message, hey, the package is here, the suit's here. Thank you very much.
Right.
At that point, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to head to Manhattan. I'm going to meet some friends, try to sell some suits while I'm there. So I get probably another text 10 minutes later that says, hey, this isn't going to work. This suit is the wrong color. And I said, you got to be kidding me.
On Saturday, the day before you need it.
Yep. So then they said to me, all right, cool, we're going to just find somebody else, and we're going to get another suit as a backup. I said, no, you're not. I said, we're going to fix it, right? So at that point, man, I went to one of the, it was like a Michael's craft store, and I was like, all right, or no, excuse me. Before that, I was like, so the suit came in and it was an off-white, so it was like a yellow yolky type white. Yeah. And I looked at it, I was like, this is hideous. There's no way it's going to pass. So I was at the Barclays Center, and I looked to my left, and there was a Target. So I was like, all right, cool, let me bleach the suit. So I said, if I bleach the suit, it's going to work out. So I go to Target, I buy a couple buckets, rubber gloves for my hands, a couple bottles of bleach, and I'm carrying a suit down the street. So
you should have been documenting this on Instagram or something. I wanted to see that.
This was crazy.
Yeah,
man.
It sounded like a crazy week. I did see a little bit.
I had to kind of keep some under the radar because nobody knew what the project was for.
Right, it was supposed to be a special unveiling. Right, so I got you.
So long story short, we go and we do that, and I get back, and I thankfully I only dipped the cuff of the pant into the bleach, and I let that sit there for about 20 minutes, and I realized it wasn't changing the color, but the clothing was starting to deteriorate from bleach. So by this time, you're talking it's 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Saturday night in New York City, where they don't have Walmarts, they don't have stuff like that, and so I looked at it, I was like, this isn't going to work. So I went to a Michael's craft store, and I went in there, and I was like, hey, I Googled and found fabric dye, and there was a fabric dye called RIT, I believe it was RIT. I was like, all right, cool, this should work out perfectly. So I go to Michael's, and they have this whole case section of 100 cans of RIT, except the color white. So I'm like,
the one that you need.
I'm like, you kidding me? Like now what do I do, right?
Right.
So I get this one girl that works there, and she was a college student. She saved my life, man. I was like, here's the deal. I'm screwed. Like, this is now at 7:30.
Right.
What do I do? Like, here's what I'm doing. Here's who I'm working with. How do I fix this? And she basically says, you could maybe spray paint it. So there's a fabric spray paint, and I there was 3 cans, right? So I was like, well, how many cans do I need? She goes, probably 8. I was like, all right. Again, let's just not make this easy for me.
Right.
So we ended up, I was like, all right, let me just take what you have. So she calls all these Michaels stores in Manhattan.
Right.
And so she puts a couple on hold at all these other stores. I go back to the hotel room. Now I have bleach. I have buckets. I have rubber gloves. I have all this stuff laying around there. Now I have aerosol cans in the hotel room.
Right.
So, like, who knows what they would see if they walked in. And it was absolutely insane. So spray painted it, realized, all right, this is going to work. Let's get to Manhattan and grab the rest. And they closed at 10 o'clock. I got there about 9:45 and grabbed
It's like a rush against the clock.
Yeah. So it worked out. It worked out well. The next day, deliver the suit, and it was a little bit big. So then I was like, all right, cool. We need to taper it a little bit more. Contacted every tailor under the sun in Brooklyn, all closed. Call one guy in Manhattan, and he was the only guy that was open. So I take an Uber there. Now this is 2 o'clock. They need it back by 3:30. So I go down there and drop the suit off. I say, hey, I need this project. He's like, okay, when do you need it? By Tuesday?
You're like, no, I need this
man.
like now.
I got about an hour. Can you help out?
Right.
So he's like, well, I can't do it. I was like, how much will it take, right? And he throws a number at me, and I was like, all right, here's this. And I gave him a little bit more to knock that out for me. And in the meantime, I went and sold a suit to somebody I knew in the area. And
there you go.
I came back, got the suit, delivered it, and it was a slam dunk. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was the most rewarding experience, but the hardest thing I've been through, one of the hardest things I've been through so far.
Well, it definitely gives you a lot of experience. And then if you were to ever go through that again,
Right.
you know exactly what to do.
Right.
So what about some of the other clients? How were you able to get like ESPN and then be able to work with some people like that are from the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of this has been word of mouth and referrals, man. We don't pay for any marketing right now. We're very fortunate that, I believe in customer service is number one, hands down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And everybody that I work with and everybody that's involved in the company, like, that's got to be their priority because we have a really good product. But customer service will make that a really great product, or it will make you a terrible business and have a terrible product, right? So I think through the word of mouth of everything, these guys have just taken the friendship and ran with it. And a lot of the WWE guys are former NFL players or former athletes, or a lot of celebrities and athletes love WWE wrestling.
Right.
So to be the organization that I first got into, to not thinking that it would allow me to take the business to where it is, but it's just been purely word of mouth. Like, these guys I work with genuinely care about me, and they help me out, and they love the product. So it makes it easy. And one guy introduces me to somebody, and then from that point it just snowballs.
Right. I know one of the ones that does work on ESPN that you work with is Coachman.
Yep.
I actually saw a funny video that you put up on Instagram when he tried to give you a shout out.
Of course, the guy messed it up, man.
He's like, David Allegreer? He's like, no. He's like, no, whatever.
Yeah,
but that was a funny moment. But when I saw that, I was like, the fact that you even had your name on that show, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was cool because, this was months ago when Titus and I first started working together. That's actually when I first met Coachman. And it was more of Titus was being interviewed on ESPN. Coachman was interviewing him. And Titus gave myself a nice shout out and another tailor that he uses in his neck of the woods in Florida. And that's when Coach and I started building a relationship together. And then, fast forward, that was probably in the winter time, right after I went to Royal Rumble initially. Well, then in June of that year, Coachman calls me and says, hey, I'm doing this fashion show in New York City with Carmelo Anthony and 50 Cent. You need to get up here. It's at Bloomingdale's in New York City. So I was like, done, man.
Right.
So I went to New York City, got to meet all those guys, spend some time with them. And then the week after, Coach goes on the air and just gives me this killer shout out. And it was surreal. It was a very surreal moment. For sure.
That's awesome. So what's like some of the goals that you're looking to have with this clothing line brand? What are like your short-term goals, and what's like the long-term goal of that?
So, short term, man, every day is different. We wake up and you get a new email or a new text message. Or I got an email this morning from a gentleman at a pretty large organization that's an international business, and he's seen the work that we've done, and he wants to get involved and wants to leverage us and use us for some massive projects.
Right.
I got a call in June from Shark Tank, and it was one of those things, played phone tag, went back and forth, and where we are now, we're not really allowed to speak about that, but there's some cool things happening with that.
So real quick, how did you even initially get that opportunity?
For the Shark Tank?
Yeah.
I guess they just saw the proper knot through working with WWE maybe, or whatever it may be, and because we've been fortunate to get a lot of national publicity pretty quickly.
Right.
So again, on all these celebrities or athletes, it's helped us out. So we have an opportunity right now where hopefully we have a reality TV show coming out on Bravo.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah, so there's some unique things that we're working on with that. And
so what's the show going to be about? Is it more like a reality documentation type show, or what is it going to be?
So essentially the theme as it sits now, if we do get picked up, would be, the two biggest things in reality are entrepreneurship. You have the Shark Tanks, the Cleveland Hustles, the Profit, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then you also have fashion, the Project Runways of the world, all these fashionable reality shows. Mm-hmm. Well, the hardest part of having a reality show is having celebrity, right? Mm-hmm. That's the hardest part. Well, we literally just trip over celebrities every single day with our business. Mm-hmm. So because we have the three, the celebrity, the fashion, and the entrepreneurship in one, they feel that it'd be a great opportunity to have a reality show based around that. So it would be essentially building our business, growing our brand, which would be pretty cool. So, and it would potentially change the game for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what's like the long term? What do you see it being like in 5 years, 10 years? What would that look like?
Yeah, so we have some lofty goals right now. Couple things I'm really working on for the 2-year plan right now is actually bringing my own manufacturing plant to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I
bring it home.
Yeah, man. You look at Pittsburgh, where it was blue collar, all these steel mills and everything, and the working class, right? And now you look at it with Uber, the tech companies of the world. Facebook's here now. And then you also look at it with all these great restaurants and dining experiences. Pittsburgh is changing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So my theory behind it is, man, why not bring that old school feel of the hustle and the hard work, that blue collar, back to Pittsburgh, but put a little twist on it and open up my own manufacturing plant. So with that, I'd like to be able to private label my competitors' clothing as well, make that for them, and then obviously make ours and give us a little bit more of the secret sauce to be very elite. So that's something. I also want to employ veterans to work at the factory.
Awesome.
I just, giving back is very, very important to us. So that's a part of the whole journey itself. And then at some point, off the rack clothing in Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Barney's, wherever we can. And most recently, I was in Los Angeles, and within the next 45 to 60 days, that I may have a new business partner who's going to be an A-list celebrity. So we started the negotiations, and we're pretty much finalizing everything. So
awesome.
Hoping to announce that at the end of 2017. And, if that happens, we hopefully get the cover of GQ magazine, Entrepreneur magazine.
That'll be a big deal.
Yeah, so it was the right person for the right opportunity, and somebody that I would be very happy to staple my name next to, just because it's a really, really great person. So
that's awesome. One of the other things that you have going on is you're also working with the American Cancer Society as well, and you did an event last year as well, and you're doing another one pretty soon, right?
Yep.
How did you get that started? How did you connect with the right person, and what was last year's experience like? And then tell us a little bit about the one that's coming up.
Yeah, of course. So there's a gentleman that I met through Justin LeBar, actually. His name is Brian Goolish, and him and I just built a friendship, and he's such an amazing guy, hard worker, just really, really busts his butt at the Cancer Society, and it's cool to see that, and he's been there, I think 7 years or 6 years or something. So it's been a while, and he's got a lot of connections in pool there. And he introduced me, brought me into the network of people there, and we just figured, how can we help them out, right? Because everything is not about us; it's about giving back, and
it's that two-way street
for sure. And I think that just is, everybody should do that, hands down. Doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter if you don't have a business. Just give back.
Yeah, just do that in life. I mean, it costs you nothing to just do the right thing.
Right. So we signed a 2-year partnership with the American Cancer Society on a national level. That was June of 2016. That expires July of 2018, and I think we're going to renew something and do something with them long term. So they've been a great organization to work with, and I don't know one person that has not been impacted by cancer in one way or another.
Right. My grandmother was a part of that, so unfortunately passed away. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, man, it's tough, and it's and as you get older, you look at life differently.
Oh, yeah.
And you realize you're not here for the long term, and you realize that it doesn't matter about race, size, whatever. Cancer attacks everybody.
Right.
And man, that is it's been inspirational to see some of the stories that I've seen and heard, and also sad and terrified. I lost 3 family members in the last couple of years due to cancer, and it's one of those things that we can put a stop to it. So it was a very, very important cause for me to get involved in. So we decided last year, let's have a celebrity fashion show in Pittsburgh, and let's partner with the American Cancer Society for it. So we did that, and I flew in a bunch of WWE wrestlers.
What wrestlers were a part of that last year?
Last year we had Stu Bennett, Wade Barrett.
Okay.
We had Kalisto.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had Mojo Rawley was in for it.
Yeah, I did. I mean, you can't miss that.
If you saw his stint on the stage.
Right.
Rosa Mendez, actually, WWE Diva.
Really? She was there too. Okay.
Jason Carrion, who actually, he's a reality star on Married at First Sight. He met his wife on TV at the altar and married her. And they've been together for 4 or 5 years since.
Wow, so that's legit.
Yeah, and then Coachman actually came in and hosted the event.
Awesome.
And then I obviously have to give a shout out to a couple of the NFL players, Anthony Chickalo, Arthur Motes, and Jordan Dangerfield. And then while I'm rattling off, we had Mike Clark from WTAE, Paul Alexander from Root Sports, and I don't think I'm missing anybody, but it was an incredible night. So we had almost 400 people there. We raised almost $15,000 in a couple hours for the Cancer Society.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was incredible, man. And so we said, let's do it again. And so our next fashion show is October 6th of this year, and it's at Room 16 in the Strip District. It's going to benefit the American Cancer Society again. We have most of the same celebrities coming back, and then we're adding the New Day. They're coming in for it. Jinder's coming in for it.
Jinder Mahal's coming through. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so I didn't know that. You got the WWE champion coming in.
That's right, man.
Okay.
So, and then it's actually pretty sweet. We got the gentleman that designs the belts for WWE.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, so he designed the David Allen Fashion Show belt. So
that is sick. You should have brought that on the show.
Well, so we don't have it yet.
Man.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So he's putting all the crystals and stuff on it now.
Okay.
So of course I had to buy one for myself too. I couldn't pass up on that. But we're gonna auction that off at the event. So,
awesome.
Man, it's been incredible. Just working with good people along the way and never giving up and just hustling. So the Cancer Society has become near and dear to my heart, and everybody involved in the organization, they're all great people. And if you look at them, you choose what career you have in life, right? Well, they commit their lives to trying to help people.
Right.
So not enough praise goes to them, I don't think.
Right. So how would someone go about wanting to donate to that? Because I absolutely want to be able to donate as much as I possibly can to that. So how would someone go about donating to that cause and to that event?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a part of this campaign in Pittsburgh called The Real Men Wear Pink.
Okay.
And this is our 2nd year doing it. So I guess the easiest way right now would probably be just to email me at our company, and I could send out information on that.
Okay. We could definitely put that in there somewhere. So.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, so it would just be info@davidallenclothing.com.
Okay.
And, we'd love to send any links and information. Or if they buy tickets to the fashion show, go to the fashion show, and you could get tickets at davidallenfashionshow.com. So
okay.
Various ways to do that. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I've already reserved my tickets. Awesome. I definitely plan on being there for sure to show my support. So awesome. I believe what you're doing is definitely an incredible thing. You're definitely putting in a lot of positivity and impact towards other people. So I feel like it'll definitely be a great event. And seeing what happened last year, you just can't miss the event.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like any videos of that up on like your YouTube? Or?
Yeah, so we have if you go on our YouTube channel, it's just search David Allen Clothing.
Okay.
And Allen is ALAN. And we have a ton of videos there. We have actually some snippets from a little micro series that we did last year as well, leading up to the fashion show. And our social media, at David Allen Clothing, at David Allen Style on Instagram. We have a lot of information there. So
awesome.
plenty of ways to find out.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, seeing those what happened at the event last year, I definitely want to be a part of it this year. Awesome, and I feel like, is this something that you plan on doing yearly? Because I feel like it's a great idea.
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, we just have to. The hardest part is elevating it from the prior year. And last year I didn't have any idea if 3 people were going to go or 300 people. And fortunately, we had over 300 people there.
That's a good turnout.
It was incredible, man. And the fun that people had to raise money for such a good cause. And also doing it in Pittsburgh, because you don't see a lot of fashion shows of that caliber in Pittsburgh. So that's something we're going to continue to do. This is our second one. Next year, we got a one up this year. And, I'm looking at different venues and potentially changing it. I want to do it maybe at an airport hangar somewhere.
Okay.
I thought about doing it at a rooftop parking garage downtown.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so we want to just be able to, keep getting the same clients coming in, add different clients as we continue to network, and just at the end of the day, it comes down to how much money can we raise to stop cancer. So.
Yeah, because I think every year as this continues to happen with this event, I definitely see it continue to be bigger and bigger, and people being able to be a part of it, and being able to attend the event, raise money for a good cause, and at the end of the day, make a good impact on other people. Yeah. So what would be like a message that you would want to get out to people? What's the message that you are trying to impact on people, or what's the goal that you try to make sure you get accomplished every single day?
Yeah, so man, the big push that I have, and anybody that's trying to figure something out, whether it's you want to be an entrepreneur or whether it's you just want to be better at what you're doing in your day job, man, we have so much limited time, and it's what you get out of your time. And relationships are going to change. Life is going to continue to go on. And it's all about how hard you work and how bad you want something. And I think the core principles of what actually entail in this situation are just working hard, doing everything you possibly can to be successful, because we all have 24 hours in the day. I mean, that's it. That's literally all it comes down to.
Exactly.
And man, I had this epiphany the other day, and I don't stop and think about what's going on too much in my life, but it's cool to sit back and see sometimes. But I was driving home. I was away for the last month. Got in Monday night, trying to catch up with everything, and I think it was on Wednesday night. I'm driving home, and it was about 5:45, and I'm coming against traffic because I live in the city, and I see all these people leaving the city. And I remember when I had a day job and I had to work 9 to 5, right? And I kept looking at the clock. It's 5 till, it's 3 till, it's 1 till, boom, get out of here, right? Go home. Go home and sit on the couch or do whatever, and that's cool if that's what somebody wants to do, but. I didn't. I looked at that and I said, "Man, it's already 6 o'clock. I got 10 more hours of work to do." Right?
Exactly. That's my favorite part of the day. Like whenever I clock out around like 4 or 5, it's like I got at least 6, 7, 8 more hours left in the day. I could get a lot done.
Yeah. There's nothing that anybody can take away from you when you're successful, and at the end of the day, you control your own destiny, and you are able to get what you want. I'm a nobody from Western Pennsylvania that grew up in a small town called Finleyville, Pennsylvania, that nobody has ever heard of, right?
Right.
And man, the only thing that has got me here is commitment, and giving up things, not drinking, not sleeping in on weekends, not going to bachelor parties, not going on vacations. And as hard as that stuff is, man, I said for 5 years I'm going to commit, and I'm going to bust my ass as much as I possibly can. And man, it's 2.5 years in, it's changed my life. And I'm not anywhere where I want this to be. I'm not anywhere where this is going to be. But man, I love the hustle. I love the fear. Man, I love the days when my bank account hit negative $86.40 a year ago, after I drained $110,000 from my 401k and didn't know what the hell I did to ruin my life. But I love every minute of it. And now, I have 4 full-time employees. We have 10 1099 contractors across the country. We're launching a new website next month that you're going to be able to build and design and buy your own suits online. We're launching 20 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter vans that are customized to be mobile showrooms across the country.
That'll be awesome.
And man, it just, all it took was a vision, a dream, and a work ethic that was just disgustingly committed, and that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you being on the show, man.
Absolutely,
you taking out the time, because you're definitely a busy man, traveling and everything like that. So I'm glad you got an opportunity to share with us what you do with your 24 hours. And then for those that are watching or listening, I hope we've added some value to your 24 hours. And what I want to know in the comments below, share with us, what do you do with your 24 hours? Hit us up.